Welcome everyone to Liberal Agencies Television. I hope this video finds you well in your location across the globe. Today, I want us to just talk a little bit about our environment. This is a very important subject because our environment is our health. Your environment basically is your surrounding. If you just look around, whatever you see around, that's your environment. There are trees, you see animals, you see water bodies. For those who come from areas where there are maybe rivers flowing, or lakes or dams, those are some of the things that form what an environment looks like. You see, water is a very important commodity in the life of any living thing, human beings and all the other living things. If there's no water in the world today, there will be no living thing in the world, because everybody and everything depends on water for survival. So when you see, maybe you come from an area where you are blessed with maybe a dam near your homestead or a river, those are very important privileges that we must always appreciate. And we are supposed to show our appreciation by preserving these resources. Some of them are natural, now like the dams and lakes. Nowadays when you walk around, even in the places that used to pass and you see a dam, you'll find that some of these dams have dried up. And now it's just a flat surface. All these are because of maybe human activities. I want to urge us that we need to ensure that we preserve these kind of blessings if we have them. One way that you can preserve maybe a dam or some small pond that gathers water for your domestic usage is that during the dry season, you make sure that you dig it little deeper, so that when the rain now comes, it can collect more water. And if you dig it deep enough, it reaches a point where now you can start getting some underground water also coming up now to be part of the water body now. And it becomes very difficult for it to dry up. So that's one area of very great importance that human beings should observe: water conservation. Conserving our water bodies. Another thing is the trees that we see in our environment. You see, trees also contribute so much in the lives of other living things. Trees are even the cause of rain in many cases also. When when there's an area that has big trees, usually those trees have the ability of pulling the rainy clouds to those areas. And you'll find that those areas with trees are usually getting more rain than the areas that are bare. You know? And when there's rain, it means now there's a lot of water, natural source, and other things will now also get life. Trees also give us oxygen, you know, through the process, you know, of photosynthesis. That's also another source of oxygen, which is very beneficial to the living other beings. We know the oceans and all the other water bodies also give us a lot of oxygen. In fact, over 50% of the world's oxygen come from these water bodies, the seas and the lakes and, you know, all these water sources. So these are things we must preserve. Trees, even there are those trees that produce even fruits. You know, if you preserve a tree like that, you are the one who is going to enjoy, because you just walk around and pluck maybe a fruit, and you sit down and enjoy, and your life now becomes, you know, you pass life very easily and smoothly, you know. And also other vegetations, all other vegetations. You know, there are also these other medicinal herbs, also they are found in the vegetations. Things like also crops that we plant, we can use them for food, you know. So our environment is our life, and we need to preserve all these blessings. You see, even the animals that live amongst us, see, both domestic and the wild animals, they all need to be preserved. You know, a lot of people think that only the domestic animals are important. The wild animals, if you find, you should just maybe kill. All these animals are important. And they also form the part of our environment, and they increase the beauty in our environment. So I just want to encourage us to develop practices that can ensure that we coexist with our environment very nicely, so that we can benefit in our time and in the generations that are coming. You see, if we destroy our environment now, the other generations that are coming behind us will not find anything. There will be no life, you know. I saw somewhere somebody wrote that after all the trees have been cut and the last rivers dried up, what will human beings eat? Or the human nature, what will they feed on? After all the trees have been cut and the last stream has dried. So let's try to preserve these things for even the generation that will come behind us. So I just want us to look at a few things that we can do to preserve our environment. And at this point, I want to allow our new viewers who have just bumped into our channel today to take a second and just press the subscription button. Let me just 1 second. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, there are just some very little things that we can do as human beings to ensure that we always preserve our environment in the little way that we can. If everybody plays their part, we'll go a very long way, even if we leave other measures to be taken by the authorities. I just mentioned to you that if you want to preserve maybe a dam or some pond somewhere, you always ensure that you always dig it a bit deeper. Maybe when the rains have subsided and you see the water now is draining, you just dig it a bit deeper so that when the water will come or the rains will come, it will accommodate more. And the deeper it goes, the closer you come into a position where now it can start even receiving underground water. These are things that communities living around these places can always come together and do, because all those dams help the communities around there for irrigation, for maybe feeding animals, watering animals and everything. Also something that you can do just as an individual without looking for somebody else, plant trees. Don't ignore this very important thing. People, even when they hear cutting trees, they start saying that, how long will a tree take to grow? I will not be there, things like that. Trees usually germinate very fast and grow very fast. Myself, I've seen even trees that I planted. Some of them have overgrown, in my lifetime. And even if you plant some today, they will still be there and they will serve you even. Let's embrace the spirit of planting trees and fruits. Tree fruits. All these things are going to help you, and it's going to enhance the way of your living, and the generation that are coming also will enjoy. What we should also avoid is causing pollution in our environment. This is a very serious thing, maybe in urban places. When you walk around, maybe you just find garbage scattered everywhere and everything. And they don't scatter themselves. These things are put there by human beings. They are the ones who just throw their garbage without caring. If you can have some dustbin somewhere at a corner, whenever you have a garbage or some rubbish that you've collected, or things that you've now used and you don't want to use them again, don't throw them away. Just gather them together, all those garbage in a bin. And then after now they are full or certain level that you can now dispose them, you take them to a proper place. This applies everywhere, even in the rural areas. It's a simple practice that can go a very long way in ensuring that we live in a very secure place. If you don't have this practice in a very populated area, that's where you now start hearing things like disease outbreaks, things like cholera. You find that people are just throwing away waste like that everywhere, and then now an outbreak comes and it starts spreading everywhere. And it is the human beings who suffer again from their own actions. Some throw even like this Nairobi river. Today, you don't even want to pass near that river or get into contact with it, because people have really dumped all manner of things into the river. Some 30, 40 years ago, if you ask the people who saw it, they will tell you that the water used to be very clean. And even it used to be useful for other families for their domestic uses, you know. But today, if you just see the way it looks, you don't even want to come close to it or get into contact with it. It's very dirty and very messy. We know there are some also these industries that also emit a lot of waste and a lot of gas into the air. Those ones we can leave maybe to the authorities. But I'm talking just basically on these small little things that the common mwananchi can observe to ensure that we are living in a nice environment. You know, there is this area that I live, even right now, and the ones I used to live before. You can live in that area for even a whole 1 month without seeing a single tree, because it's densely populated and everything. Now it's only houses. You can't see a single tree unless maybe if you're going to visit somebody in a far area. That's when you may come across a tree, you know. So the area is already very polluted. There are no trees, and then now again you mess up with the garbage everywhere. Let's control that area, because it's an area that we can manage ourselves. You know, I've already asked us not to cut trees, and that is one thing that also has contributed to climate change. Nowadays we hear about climate change. It is these small little things that we do and ignore that at the end of the day now causes a very big problem to everybody. During some days back, I used to hear people just tell that now, this month, we are going to have rains, so we are supposed to cultivate our land in time. The rains are going to start. In fact, even those old people, like our grandmothers, they used even to know the date. They can even be very precise that next week the rains are starting. They used to know, you know. You're just told now we need to cultivate our land because the way now things are, next week the rains will start. They know very well, and next week the rains will start. It was very predictable because climate was very fine the way it was before it was now damaged the way it is now. Nowadays you can't tell. Nowadays you just cultivate your land, you wait for the rains. The days sometimes will pass, maybe they can come early and leave early. They're not predictable anymore. But those days it was known and it used to happen like that. So I just want to really encourage us to try and observe these little things. And that way, we'll find life very smooth, and even the people that will come behind us will find that indeed the people who lived before us also did a very good thing, and they will find life. There will be nothing for them if you don't take action today. With the trend, the way things are going, we see governments and authorities trying to, maybe even now starting to invent green energy. Those are good, we can wait for those. But before that, it must start with you with a simple thing that you can do without even having to spend so much. Well, I just want to leave you with those. You see, there's this thing of food chain, the way we used to know it. Things were just planned the way God had planned them, the Creator. things will be very good. You see, God planned everybody and everything with what it will survive on. You find that there's grass. The grass maybe will feed some animals, maybe like the hare and the squirrels and everything. And then the squirrels, when they breed, other animals feed on the squirrels and the rabbits. And those animals again, there are all other animals that feed on them. Just the food chain like that. But there's no level of chain that is going to finish the other. You find that the rabbits will produce more than what maybe the hyenas will produce, and even the now antelopes also will produce more. So there's always be enough grass for the antelopes and all these other herbivores, so that they also produce more for the now carnivorous. And the food chain was flowing very, very well. It's only the human being who now came again into the wildlife to start maybe killing them. You find that they identify some of the parts of animals living in the wild that are costly. So even now they start hunting them. So kill maybe things like maybe elephants, lions for some of their products that they produce, some quality things that come from maybe the lions, elephants, and the wild animals, the leopards. See, when you sell a skin of a leopard, you make money. So the human nature is what has interfered with the climate and the environment, because they have gone to a very far level. So I just want to urge us to be contented, stop this greed of trying to make some money through such means of killing animals. Let them be there so that other generation can also come and find them. Nowadays we hear about the endangered species of animals. Like, I don't know, the white rhinos, they are just a very few number left, because of the human activities. Let's humble ourselves and coexist with all these animals. I just want to leave you with that. Until we meet again in the next video. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Preserve your environment and God's protection.